All right. Next up, we have Leslie Schneider. She is going to talk about Bones in the Desert, the legacy of a life dedicated to human potential. And Leslie is also the owner of, or the co-owner of OfficeXpats, which is helping to host tonight. So thank you, Leslie, for that.
Just in case. In early October 2005, I got a call from the Seattle police saying that my father had disappeared. Well, yeah, I said, he's on a road trip in the Southwest. Well, you should call the sheriff's office in Monticello, Utah, because they're trying to track him down. His car was found on a dirt road abandoned in the Canyonlands National Park. So I did, and the sheriff's story had me a little worried, but it was all kind of typical of my dad's adventures. This time he was on a self-proclaimed road trip to visit family and friends and places that had inspired him. And Canyonlands, he had said, was the most beautiful place in the world. And that's where he disappeared. 5.5 years later, no clues. And then just last year, a skull was found in a little canyon about 3 miles from where his car had gotten stuck. I quickly flew to Utah and went with the deputies out to the canyon to see if we could find anything more. And in one amazing day, we found most of his skeleton in the stream bed. So far from feeling like a tragedy, my dad died as he had lived his life. He had taken his family to the Philippines and Amman, Jordan, and he had gone to Spain and he'd written a book about how cars had ruined the human scale of cities. I spent summers in the back of a camper van going to the Grand Canyon and Monument Valley. Did you know that the Hopi Indians live on just 3 mesas near the Grand Canyon? And my father, before he was married, he had taught Hopi children in a little 2-room schoolhouse on Second Mesa. So a couple decades later, when he took us back, he went to one of those families and he said, "Can I leave 3 kids with you for a cultural experience?" I was 11, my brother was 9, and my sister was 8. So yeah, my life, my childhood was a little weird, but the really weird part is what my dad was thinking during those years about how place impacts who we become as humans. And he described how thousands of people could live in Pueblo-like dwellings, like stacked homes with private patios, but connected on the inside to public areas where you could hang out with friends and neighbors. Families could organize to share the work of cooking meals. Your commute from a day job could be minutes up an elevator to get to your home, and farms and parks nearby would be walkable or bikeable. As kids, we thought this was cool. As a matter of fact, we were ready to move in. I mean, this seemed like a place where all parts of our lives would be connected and in short distances and friendly passageways that were meant for us. So not surprisingly, years later when I was pregnant with my son, my family joined with a couple others to see if we could develop a co-housing community near downtown Seattle. And it took us 4 years, but we did it. And I love saying that my son has been managing his own social life since he was in preschool. Community needs a place to grow. There's a new trend now called co-working, which is like going to work in a club that is, instead of an office that's owned by your employer. And co-working spaces are creating communities, and they're nurturing collaborations between people who work independently. There's a phrase going around in co-working that's describing the magic that happens in co-working spaces, and it's called accelerated serendipity. So there's thousands of co-working spaces popping up all over the world right now, and in fact, there's one right upstairs. So back to my dad. His life is remarkable for his fearless adventures and his big ideas, and of course, his incredible end. But his story is important for the vision that he had for community and humanity. I still need to publish that last book where he's talking about how to reorganize society around maximizing the human potential. I'm grateful to my dad for teaching me about the power of place. And I'm hoping that his amazing story can be told in a way that maybe can reach people, more people after he died than before. Canyonlands, this is the quote from my father that just brings him back to me every time I read it. He says, "As a generalist, I fly high and wide, where perhaps the oxygen is thin, but the view of humanity is grand." Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.